As builders, we're always trying to figure out how we can better serve our clients, right? The clients that we're building homes for, whether it's how we're managing, how we're communicating, what contractors we're working with, or what materials we know about, right? But one thing is, how are we going to serve those that we haven't met yet? Today, our guest is helping builders help different builders and contractors serve those clients they haven't connected with. My Online Toolbox specializes in construction marketing, strategic marketing for the contractor or the builder. Make sure that we're getting quality prospects calling us that we can actually help, that we can actually call back, and where they're connected to with the right people that they're looking for. Let's begin to build.
My name is Jeremy Melanson, co-founder of Turnkey Custom Homes. In 2016, I set out to build a home on some land. After failing to find a builder to help me understand the process, Turnkey was born and we were new builders. Fast forward past a lot of hard lessons, long hours, and adventure-like stories, we took our side hustle to a 7-figure business where we get to show up every day and work together with our friends and family to build beautiful custom homes. This series was created to pull back the curtain and go behind the scenes of home building and give us a chance to have an open conversation about how clients and builders can work together to achieve their goals. Let's begin to build.
Hey, Jeremy, thank you so much for having me today. It's exciting to be with you.
You bet, man. I really appreciate your time and doing this. We can all get so much out of these. You never know where they're going to go, never know what we're going to get out of them. So it's just really, really an easy form of communication that we can share with others on what we've been working on.
Well, go ahead, start firing away at me.
You bet, man. Well, hey, just starting off by introducing yourself, um, explain a little bit about what My Online Toolbox does, who it serves, a little bit about you, etc.
Okay, well, thank you, Jeremy. Well, first, my name is Brian Javelin, and I run a company called My Online Toolbox. And I like to keep my slogan as simple as possible, which is we help people with their marketing to attract ideal clients. And that slogan itself is rather important because when you speak to a lot of people, and I target the construction industry, home builders, remodelers, and I like people to make sure that when they say the word marketing, that they don't just immediately assume websites, social media, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. It's really kind of like talking to an author and not caring about which version of a word processor I use until we first agree on what is the story and that I'm a writer of a story. And then, yes, how I glamorize that story with the different tools between Google Docs and Microsoft Word is irrelevant because I still get published in national magazines without anybody asking me the tools I'm using. So when we say marketing to attract ideal clients, it sounds like it is a buzzword, but it's a concept and a brand marketing strategy that when people think of leads, do they think of leads and focus in on getting a lot of them and hoping through sheer volume that a good lead will trickle in eventually? Or do they wake up to say that the next person who sends them an email, a phone call, a website inquiry, or even a smoke signal, is it all that it's really something applicable to whatever is the service and the service area that the contractor works in? So when we talk about marketing for ideal clients, that's what we mean. Getting less volume of opportunities, but better quality exponentially. And that's the My Online Toolbox topic. And as far as it comes to me personally, I'm just under 60, going to be 59 shortly. But I started in the industry. My first business, I was out of college at 22, and I'm now in my fourth company. But marketing was always the first thing on my mind when building a business starting at 22. So, and it got amplified because my first business was software for the fashion industry. So my clients happened to be people that were, yes, using the product, but they were critiquing me every step of the way to make sure that my message was crystal clear to grow my company. And at the time, many people, listeners today, may or may not appreciate the power of IBM just 35 years ago, but IBM was a major force. And here I was in my mid 30s as an IBM long-term success story. And in those days, the word long-term success, the younger generation now treats success on a weekly or quarterly basis. But in those days, to win that the appropriate acknowledgement, you had to be doing the same thing for no less than 10 years. So I was pretty proud to, and I tried in 10 years to get the award, and it took me 5 years of
Yeah.
repetition to get there. But to get an IBM long-term success story at 15 years in business, but starting at 22 was a major accomplishment. And a lot of it had to do with not, yes, I was doing well in my business and I was doing well financially, but my image surpassed everything else.
Yeah.
So when people decided to look at me, I looked like the Lamborghini of what I did. And I've now taken that experience and have just multiplied it from company to company to company. And now I'm doing that in your industry, which is the construction industry, or specifically in your case, custom homes and barn dominium building.
Well, man, I'll tell you from personal experience that I'm really glad you're here. I'm sure I'm sure I speak on behalf of quite a few of your ideal clients.
Yes.
Not saying I am one, but I'm gonna pay you to say I am one here in a little while, you know. But
Okay.
but so
You're awfully close. Awfully close.
ideal clients being in your slogan, and that really speaks to a lot of us, you know, as builders. Of course we're looking for our ideal clients to give us a shout, and I'm sure we're going to get into that here in a little while. But as far as being an ideal client, when we transfer through to looking at someone that's looking for a home builder, all of those things that you're doing, that is really serving that homeowner that's looking. Just like we don't want a bunch of disconnect from the clients that are calling us as builders, the clients aren't looking to make a day job out of looking for a builder either. You know, so you do quite a bit to help that client get to that the right connection, the right relationship as fast as possible from you know a very high level view, right?
That is correct. And
Yes.
I can give you like a quick example just to make a point,
Yeah.
which is and it just happened the other day, so it's fresh on my mind. A company called me up and they said they were referred to me by XYZ, and we would like some help in the help in our marketing, and basically the same merry-go-round of, we spent X amount of dollars, and this is where it always starts. I spent a fortune on my marketing and nothing ever happens. So I listen, because first, when someone says I spent a fortune, that's very relative. Is it 5,000, 10,000, 50,000? It depends on what they mean. And I keep listening to see how long it goes until I really even know what the heck the person does.
Yeah.
And you would not believe how long this guy said, well, I've been in construction for a long time. And I said, great, because I'm actually expanding to your area and I'd love you to work and do a build out. He goes, what do you mean? I said, you said you're in construction. I'm looking for a GC to build out my store. And I did that intentionally because as he was talking, I was Googling his name and realized he was in the residential market. But I wanted to throw him off because I was using his own words against me,
Mm.
against him.
Mhm.
So when I said general contractor for a build out, isn't that construction? Well, yeah, no, what I meant is the residential. No, what you meant and what you said are two different things. And remember, it's not Brian, the nice guy, trying to sell you a service. I'm playing judge, jury, and executioner with a little company called Google at 2 a.m, making a determination of where you stand within whatever market you think you're in. And at the moment, you didn't even come to the plate.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I said, so
Get what you
don't
ask
steer.
for, right?
Yeah. And he was like, oh, no, what I meant to say. And I go, well, for the rest of your life, be careful what you say, and instead say you're not in construction. I'd rather you say you're a residential contractor, but I would prefer you to even say I'm a residential home builder and remodeler, and be clearer and clearer and articulate that, because that's going to allow you to slowly start navigating your brand into that direction of of what you're trying to achieve. And when someone's searching for you on a Saturday, Thursday night at 2 a.m, him and his wife are just in bed, God forbid, just Googling God knows what. When they're typing in things, if they're looking for a home builder, but the world has classified you as a general construction contractor, you're going to probably be somewhere between 50 and 100 of the searches. And all of a sudden, these other people who are articulating what they do, possibly much worse than the way you do it, but their name is out there, they get visible first. And that's a detriment when 1 year turns into 5 years and your competitors are able to get just a few extra leads per year based on how they tell the world what they do.
Yeah. Exactly. That's that. So, you know, with a lot of things, we kind of have to step back to really grasp the concept, and with a lot of things in construction or home building, it really is more the Wild West than people give it credit for. Um, Someone says they're a home builder, right? They build a few homes. There are different levels of everything in different industries. There are different level of home builders. There's different stages that we go through as builders. A little bit of backstory on how we met for the listeners. Michael Stone and Devin Stone, they have the book that I found. Actually, my dad found it for me, and he's like, "Here, you need to read this," right? And it was called "Markup and Profit," and that's a book that Michael wrote. And I was reading it. I was like, "Man, this guy's got so much experience. He did such a good job putting that book together, so that as a builder or a new contractor, we could understand it, or even an old contractor, we could understand it." And Michael has a very direct way of speaking to you. He had a very direct way of getting that book across, right? So when I read that book, I found his website, I found the other things that he had done, I ordered another book, and finally I was like, man, I've got to talk to this guy. Turns out it wasn't hard to talk to him. You could call him, you could talk to him, and he had a very clear program of how you could hire him. So he actually flew down to Texas. We're in Huntsville, Texas. He flew down and he came into my office for 3 days. He met every one of my team members that was working with me. He looked through my P&L and showed me how to, ask me questions, and looked at my business side. All of that was great, but he also went and walked through homes that we were building, and looked at quality of homes, looked what he was working with, seeing where we had strengths, where we had weaknesses, and then we went over everything. Um, we we got a ton out of those 3 days as a business, but one thing that he made sure he did before he left, excuse me, was connect me with you. He said, "Look, you're building a good home. You've got good processes. You're young. You're young in the business. This was probably year two." He said the hardest part is getting the phone to ring. The you're basically working off of word of mouth. You're doing something with all the Facebook posts and all that, and you're working on everything and anything. But as you progress as a home builder, you've kind of got to get a little more specific. Now, the first step to being specific is we build homes, because we were building homes. We were also building fences or driveways, or cleaning out your neighbor's lot. We had a crew, we had employees, we had to stay busy. So we were willing to do anything to keep that going. And then we were really relying off of people that we had built in house for, people that knew us, spreading our name around to other people. Well, when you're new and you've only built 3 houses, you got 3 people out there. Hopefully you did a good job and you have 3 real strong ambassadors, but you don't have 30. So word of mouth only goes so far as to word of mouth goes. And when we got connected, you completely laid that out a little bit differently, and it was not what I was expecting to hear. So you touched a little bit on, how we call and say we need better social media, we need better this, we need a website, we need to go, whoa, whoa, whoa. We need to put a plan together and figure out what you need. So kind of walk through, you touched on it, but everybody's different. I understand that, but what does this plan as builders look like in order to serve our clients? What do you have to look at and know, and how can we be that ideal client when we call you?
Okay. Well, the beginning portion is trying your best to initially express the best of who you are today. And what I mean by that is, and I use this simple analogy because I started my life in New York. So depending on where people are listening to this, they probably know I sound like that type A hyper New Yorker or Northeasterner. But I grew up in elevators, and I made a lot of business in elevators because a lot of people, they need to close the door and you have 10 people staring at the numbers going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I just got used to turning around, facing everyone and saying hello. And I went right into my 15 to 20-second speech of what I do. Is anybody interested? And many, many times, no, it was met with silence and I turned around. But you would be shocked about how many people, oh, I know a guy. Here's a card. Thank you. And that elevator speech was extremely powerful because I was learning how to articulate quickly and make a point of what I do, who I do it for, and are you interested? And in this particular case, as a new home builder, I always tell people, when you start to go, or yeah, a new home builder or even a whole home remodeler, the beauty about your life from a marketing perspective is you are a content machine, whether you realize it or not. You have in your arsenal, or you can have in your arsenal, a tremendous amount of befores. What did it look like before somebody ever called you? What did it look like during the process of working with you? And what did it look at the end? And so unlike going to a gym and you see the picture of somebody who comes in on January 1st and what they look like on January 30th, and then the third is sign up for $19, $95 a month. That's easy, but it's before, after. How do you get on board? And with your case, we need to bring people through the journey of working with you. So obviously, and just using like some stuff we've recently done with you, there's an empty lot. Wonderful. We see the empty lot. Then, of course, we have a picture, a beautiful set of pictures, not a crappy picture, but a beautiful set of pictures showing the after. Then comes the in between, showing the design process that took place, taking very specific milestones and showing it there. So somebody in a minute or two could go to a landing page of whatever barn dominium you built in Huntsville. That's the first one that comes to mind, and gets to see this progress of, wow, when somebody said home builder, besides the quick visualization of, yes, I see what a barn dominium looks like, but I also saw what wasn't there before you got started. And I quickly saw all of the steps in between, including the design work, which may or may not be of interest to certain homeowners. So if you first package the content in a structured way, and then separately rename that content to make sure that the search engines understand what it is that they're looking at. So you could line up 10 pictures, an empty lot, a finished barn dominium on the end, and then 8 different pictures in between a design and a couple of milestones in the finish. The last thing you want to do is hand them to me as image 1, image 2, image 3 through image 10. Because when you do, inadvertently, and I'm doing this in summary, so forgive me, but in summary, the last thing you want to do is have 10 images on a page where the technical side sees it as image 1 through 10, but to the human, they see the pictures and they get it. But the last thing you want to do is have Google interpret that vacant land as vacant land for sale.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how would the vacant
This was such a great point when you first gave it to me. This was one of the original gold nuggets that I got from you. I remember was, hey, people are really excited about searching for black barn dominiums with solid natural wood fir trusses. Okay, and you have a beautiful picture of that. If that picture is named DLSCR3480Q2, then Google can find it if they type that in. But if they type in black barn dominium, how does Google know it's a black barn dominium with wood fir trusses? If you don't tell the picture, it's a black barn dominium with wood fir trusses picture. I was like, oh my gosh, like, of course, why would I not understand that?
Well, and the interesting part is, and I don't want to give the company the credit while this recording's being made, but there's one lead generation company that realizes that all these contractors are just click happy. Some are doing it professional, many are doing it with their smartphones, click, 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 click. And the first thing they can't wait to do is share it with the world. And since the vast majority share it with the world incorrectly, they have a service that says, please load your pictures here for free so we could bring you in leads. And as you're loading them, they're asking questions. What is this? Here's the drop down. Where is it? This and all these questions, the people hit click, click, click. And what they don't realize is they're renaming the images for the search engines, and the contractors inadvertently letting the lead generator become more powerful with their images than the contractor who owns the images. So then they become reliant on that lead gen company. Then they don't mind spending whatever the fee is, whether it's monthly or pay per lead and whatever it may be. But the contractor created a situation where their content is generating leads to a third party rather than themselves, because they didn't understand how to properly index their own content. So they gave it away to a third party, and then that third party sells the lead back to them. And it's basically like asking a reporter to work for you for free. And every time somebody's going to view it, I'm going to charge you even more to have your own story be read. It's ridiculous, but that's basically that's the net result, regardless, whether it's ridiculous or not. That's what's happening.
Yeah. Yeah. So as a builder, when we call you, the first thing that you have to do is help us get our story straight of who we are.
Not that we're trying to bring in who we aren't or put it out there what we're going to be. It's just, hey, what do you do well now? And how can you clearly articulate that? And then you
Right.
help us go through a plan of what type of technical support we would need to get that message out there. And then what kind of execution plan do we need? And then what kind of maintenance plan do we need to keep this going, keep this fresh, et cetera. And you clearly do a strategic marketing plan for us so that we can get out there to those homeowners that we haven't met yet, so that we can serve the people that we haven't met, which is a tricky thing, right? How do we figure out how to serve the people that we don't yet know? But coming back to my Wild West analogy is okay, so if we're out there as contractors, there's fewer good builders, fewer good cabinet makers, fewer good plumbers out there in the world than people really want to give it credit for. Um, I've listened to the chief economist for Fannie Mae, Doug Duncan, explain to us how, hey, contractors learned on the job, right? And when there was a lot of work, there was a lot of guys helping, there was a lot of guys learning. In 2008, you had people that had been in the industry for their entire lives go start driving a truck or maybe get in the restaurant industry or be mechanics or something else, right? Because there wasn't as much work. Even if they did have a crew going, they were a skeleton crew, which means they weren't training that generation. So now we are in a very real curve on a chart that shows our current labor force is not benefiting from those that were learning in 2009, 2010, 2011 on the job because those people weren't on the job. So now we have a lot of work going on. We have a lot of demand for housing. We have a very low inventory that as builders we're trying to bring up. We don't have the labor force out there ready to go do this. Even if they're available, you only need so many people to carry a board before someone has to know how to read a tape measure, right? So,
Mhm.
if we're talking about a labor force that is struggling to meet the demands of the clients that are calling, then how many of those are marketing clearly saying, "Hey, this is clearly what I do. This is clearly how to get in contact with me, and this is clearly what our next steps are." So how are those people that are out there looking for someone really finding them? And you mentioned a lead generation source. Okay, well, if we don't have a robust labor force that's overflowing at the seams, then that force is busy. Well, if I'm a quality builder that's having a hard time clearing my phone log as it is, what do I need to be on a lead gen site that's going to flood my phone with even more unqualified leads, with even more people that are looking for a tree house to be built instead of a pool? You know what I mean?
Right.
So the fact that you are very strategically clearing up our story so that you know what to tell these people, so that then you can talk about the how. Think about the benefit that that client's getting by being able to connect the dot with who they're really looking for. Day one, top of the page is actually who could serve them in that area. Who's usually on the top of the page, right? The big companies know how to get on the top of the page. Big companies aren't building your custom home on 100 acres in Huntsville, Texas with 40,000 people, 60,000 people population, right? You can call those big companies, say the top 3 big home builders. Okay, well those neighborhoods aren't here. So they're not going to come out and build on your land. So finding the 20-year-old veteran home builder in your town of 4,000 people is not the easiest, especially when you're moving into Texas from another state or you're moving out of a high populated area into a more rural area. It becomes really hard to find these quality contractors, these quality builders. They're there, but their website doesn't usually look like it does
Right.
for what you're expecting as a client, right? So, what are some of the things that you see the biggest mistakes we make as builders? And we're starting with our own marketing, we're starting with our own labor, we're starting with our own everything. What are some of those big mistakes that we make on the front end when we're first starting trying to get that phone to ring?
Well, the biggest mistake is, and this is repetitive, and mind you, again, based on age, I have these little, how do I put this? Polite wars with people half my age that know every damn feature about WordPress and they know every damn feature about Facebook or Instagram, or God forbid they say TikTok, and then I go even crazy. But they stay so focused on a bell and a whistle of a technology without clearly understanding the market of the client. And so the first thing is, before you even think about a tool, whatever the tool may be, a website, Google My Business Profile, the Facebook page, Instagram, before anything is thought of, the biggest thing is to take a step back and start to organize what is the brand and of who you are before you talk to one person. Of course, talking to me, because I act like the lawyer in a sense of trying to bring all the good, the bad, and the ugly together. But and let me even use yourself, Jeremy. It's a fun one because when I first met you, we go back in time, but as we were talking to each other, it even took me a little bit of time to learn that you had the crew that you did. I for a moment heard, because of, I was so focused on what you do and attempting to understand where you did it, but I did see you as a one-man show until you somehow said, I have a crew. Why you keep saying that? I'm like, well, I don't see the crew. And then we shared that picture that's still on your site today, which is pretty cool, on the About Us page, and it really gives a good visual of your atmosphere. But until I saw the team, how do I know there was a team? So I had this concept of, turnkey is Jeremy and Jeremy is turnkey, not that there's a team. And it doesn't matter whether that team is full-time employees or subs. I just didn't have a visual. I just saw Jeremy pulling up in a truck and a cowboy hat and a nice guy, but not a crew. So using that simple analogy, and it sits to this day, I don't know if every one of those employees or subs are still there, but you still projected this, we are turnkey, not I am turnkey. As simple as it was, how do I know? I'm sitting in Florida hearing a nice introduction, but I'm judging based on how quick I could research. And that was the best I found. A lot about Jeremy, but not a team. So now you have, your the team image, you have an introduction to your key players. That takes a moment to put it together to properly display that one topic. But if you would have just called a programmer instead of calling me that day, I guarantee he would have had an About Us page with you looking great and Jeremy, because he heard Jeremy at the same level I did, but he wasn't smart enough to be inquisitive to push you for the other things that just don't come out naturally. The same thing goes with what you do. When you say home builder, let me not say barn dominiums, let me go into home building. You could just say home builder, but if I don't hear you or pressure you, I may not know, are you talking you're a spec home builder? Cookie cutter, or you custom? It's only one word, spec versus custom. But guess what? To the person who's looking for a custom home builder, they're not looking to talk to the other home builder who's in the middle of building a community of 200 spec homes that only have 3 different, flavors. And using these simple little topics of really putting down together on paper and or folders, in wherever you put them, on a computer, Dropbox, it doesn't matter, but taking a moment to really being able to look at yourself and make sure that the content of how you're expressing yourself is crystal clear before you go to a tool such as a website or Facebook or even email, that everybody's using the right content going forward. Each tool will manipulate how that content's used differently, but you don't want to have a picture propagating all over the place like the wild, wild west, and someone sees a home and one person's posting it on the website as a spec home by mistake.
Yep.
They just didn't know. And the other person is saying custom home, but he's not saying it. Oh, it's not a custom home. That's a barn dominium. Oh, it's same thing. They live there, right? And all of these little permutations have to be understood. So technically, even using you as a great example, I could actually probably talk to pretty much the outside world and represent you rather well, as long as we're not talking about money, about, like the cost of something. But if you just said, I'm going on vacation for a month, Brian, take every damn lead, it doesn't matter, and just line them up for when I come home, I could pretty much qualify exactly your territory, what you do. And I might not be at 100% on, I get someone who's a little bit too cheap for you. I'd rather not say too expensive, but too cheap, because I just didn't know. But I could represent you pretty well that I don't need you.
That's what it takes. How else are you going to do it? Because it matters, those calls that you get. I can only be on the phone so much. I can only schedule. When you first come in, I may meet with you an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Well, if we just back to back to back, and as a business owner, that's all I did was meet with new clients, there's still a certain limit of how many I can meet a day. There's still a certain many of how many people that I could hire to meet a day. So we really need to make sure we're on the same page. More importantly, I don't want someone getting in the truck at Galveston, south of Houston, driving 2.5 hours to my office because they bought some land, around here, all to find out that I'm not the builder that they're looking for because I don't even build that. You know, it's very important to be able to kind of get on the same page at this. If I don't concisely know what it is that I do and clearly be able to articulate it in that 2-minute elevator spill, then how can you project it to the world to make sure the right people are connected together?
Worse is that enemy, the search engine, who's listening and determining this stuff at rapid lightning speed. And there's a pro and con. The con is when it's wrong, it's like me judging you, and I made a decision, and this is not a quick phone call to fix that decision. The jury was out, and when I decide to come back, which may be in a week, it might be in 6 months. You can't. Oh man, Google, you made a mistake. I'm pissed off. You can't do that. It doesn't go that way. But just the opposite. When you're crystal clear towards how you're organizing your story, and I make that decision that, wow, you are tied to Barn Dominion Building in Huntsville, Texas. I actually think I can't even get you off page one anymore for a long period of time. I know I'm battling, position 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, but I'm just using this quickly. But if somebody here is listening, and this is a way to test what we're saying, is at least to see the results, is that if you go to Google search, and I'm saying Google first before any other search engine, only because Google's occupying between 60 and 70% of search activity. It's not discounting the other ones. I'm just targeting the majority. But if you just randomly type in Huntsville, Texas barn dominium builder, you're going to see turnkey, one or more multiple results that did not exist just a few years ago. But to add a little fire to that is, when I said search, when people are listening here and they're writing it down right now, maybe, or someone may be listening and actually doing it to test the waters to decide whether they're going to listen anymore or not. So my instinct is I'm going to be at 99% people stay and 1% leave because you might be out of the country and you're not getting the search that I'm expecting. But if you're in America, you will see him on page 1, but then you could even turn it up a notch. I don't know the search habits of whomever's listening here. So depending on how you are searching, the first thing is you might be getting all results. But what you could do is select on the images or the video options and just look to see if you find any reference or references, again, to turnkey that did not exist a few years ago. And the reason why that's important, and I'm summarizing it, so it's going to be all images or video. And the summary, to keep it simple for this conversation, is I don't know the habits of everybody here that is listening. Some people might like to learn through reading. Some might be more of a visual personality. Some may be very verbal and they like to listen to videos to guide them. Either way, over a period of time, and Jeremy, I'm probably reminding of you this, but it happened over a period of time. We were filling in the voids of taking your messages and making sure that we were clear in writing, clear in video, and clear in images. And they're not equal. One is stronger than the other. I'm not going to say which one, but they all, either way, you're on page 1 or page 2 across the board, regardless of where anybody is. So even when we are quote unquote behind the 8 ball, that just means that we're at the bottom of page 2, but not that you're non-existent. And because it's everywhere, and most people will search for more than one thing when they're looking for an answer, just to compare, at least we know that you're going to be popped up in so many different ways that the branding of the answer, which may not be the first, it might be the second or the third, but at least you're part of the party.
Yeah.
On a consistent basis. And that is the key thing that I try to explain to people, is that if you take a step back and appreciate that end result, you then start to build a pattern of accumulating content to satisfy all different ways people learn, and be consistent with your message from 3 months to 6 months to 1 year to 2 year. And then, God forbid, any of you hire a family member, a girlfriend, whatever it may be, to join the company. And of course, they just took a class for 3 whole weeks and are now an expert at God knows what, that you slowed them down to don't leverage their knowledge on the technology without first making sure that they understand your brand, because inadvertently you may begin to get activity and start building the quantity game over the quality. And now you just deviated from what the long-term goal was, is to have the right people knocking on your door versus having everybody pounding on your door, and you're fighting it away and so distracted that you let the good opportunities go because it's self-imposed.
We're not talking about one tool being better than the other tools. We're talking about
That is
using
correct.
tools for a specific thing. And more importantly, let's just make sure we're classifying tools as tools. I give the example quite a bit. I know the basic concept of framing a home. I know what a top plate is. I know what a bottom plate is. I know what a stud is. I know what a king stud and a trimmer and a header and all these things. That's great, right? If I'm out there framing your home, by disclaimer, I'm not the one framing your home, right? The builders don't, they're not the ones out there doing it. But if you've listened to this podcast, you've heard me use this analogy that if I'm out there framing your home, I have to know how the studs go together with the bottom and the top plate to build a wall. Okay. I have a hammer in my hand and nails. Okay. At some point, I go, and I went to the hardware store and they have a nail gun. I can get an air compressor, air hose, and a nail gun, and I can build this quite a bit faster. So I have a new tool. I traded in that hammer for that nail gun, and I went back to the same process that I knew how to build your wall in the first place. If I don't know how to frame a house and I say, well, I really need to be a framer. I'm ready to be a framer. And I go to the hardware store and I buy a nail gun. I just now have a different tool, right? I traded in the hammer for the nail gun. I still don't know how to frame a house. So you can use Facebook, you can use TikTok, you can use websites, you can talk about SEO or different pictures or imaging, whatever we want to talk about, right? But a lot of those things are tools. And so we have to have the how we're going to do something down, regardless of what tool we're going to use. And we need to make sure that the right tools for the right job. If I need to nail your house together and I show up with a screw gun, I may be a little bit off. I'm not going to ever figure out where those nails go into that screw gun at. And I have some experience. We get in our own way, man. Even when we hire the professionals and we know what we're doing, we still get in our own way. I still push back. We're all drivers out there, right? We're running our own business. We know what we're doing. We think it translates to something else. I still push back. You're very clear about how to explain it to me. One example was we had a Facebook post that I might find and put up there in case I was wrong. It may be 1 million instead of 2, but we got like 2 million views on this
Yeah.
Facebook post. And I was like,
Yeah.
holy cow, this is amazing. It was a beautiful barnuminium. It had great pictures. I dumped it out there before I was supposed to. And and it got like 2.2 million views or something crazy like that. And I remember our conversation went a little bit like this. Hey, I am looking to make sure you are the Huntsville, Texas barn dominium builder, the Huntsville, Texas custom home builder. That way, people that are looking to build a home in Huntsville, Texas can find you. Now you're out there competing with Oprah. Google thinks that you're trying to build houses everywhere. They're going to start pumping you out to everywhere. How many phone calls from everywhere do you want? Well, I got a little taste of that. My Facebook messages blew up, which, another disclaimer, I don't check Facebook messages. I check emails. I check phone calls. I am very responsive to people that are looking to build a home with us. Facebook to me is a front porch that guides them to the website where I have a real setup way of giving you a call back. Facebook messages, I get lost. There's too many of them, right?
Right.
But I was still getting a ton of emails and phone calls because they were seeing it on Facebook. They were going to our website and they were reaching out and asking, where can we get that plan? Well, the designer owns that plan. Here's the designer's email, right? But were those serious, or were they looking to buy a $500 plan off a website because they saw the pretty picture? Hey, we have to have you. We're in Alabama. I cannot serve you in Alabama, even if I wanted to. It's not a money thing. It's not
an ego thing. I don't have a relationship with people that build in Alabama to make sure I could actually produce what my brand says it'll produce in Alabama today. Maybe one day, right? But right now, that's not even on our radar or on our goals to be able to build in Alabama. So no, I can't serve those people. I wasted their time in a sense for them to even call me. My marketing at that moment that I jumped off the rail and went on my own and I love the post, right? I love that we got 2
I
million
liked
views.
it too. I
It's
admit
gonna
it was.
drive people, I'm not discounting anything, but we were at church last Sunday and the farmer spreads seeds, right? It was a parable that was given. Some seeds land on rocky soil, they don't do real good. Some seeds get eaten up by birds. Some seeds get competed out with thorns and weeds and other stuff. And some seeds land in fertile soil, right? Well, you can't tell how someone's going to accept information or where they're going to go with it. But as a farmer, you can spend 80% of your time on the soil that's ready to receive the seeds. And as builders, that's what we're going to do. We're gonna get a little bit of dirt thrown on us for not getting a call back to you as fast as we can or as often as we can, right? But we are getting back to you as fast as we can. And maybe it's 3 days before we call you back, and that's too unprofessional and you can't handle it. I understand. I'm not saying you're wrong for thinking that. I couldn't get back to you, right? I'm fielding the calls as fast as I can, but at least I can do that from calls that are looking to build Huntsville, Texas houses and not in Alabama or Arkansas or Kuwait or wherever that Facebook post reach. And,
Mhm.
and you use Facebook for the things that Facebook's strong at. We use TikTok for the things. We're doing a podcast right now, right? you
Well
know,
then,
so we're doing all kinds of things, and there's all kinds of different tools and tactics. But it all comes down to what's your goal, who are you, and what's your strategy on how to get there, and then let's focus on putting that together so we don't waste those clients' time calling the wrong builder.
and there's something too that a lot of people here to reduce the intimidation that we're talking topics, and I actually really want for any listener here, first as payback to you, Jeremy, for putting on these type of podcasts, because any type of time we're able to enlighten someone, I actually believe there should be a payback. So in this particular case, when you Google, not his company, maybe you already know the company, but if you Google to listen to the way I was explaining it with that what is it again, Huntsville, Texas barn dominium builder, I learned personally about barn dominium builders through Turnkey. I heard about them through other people, and I was already versed on custom home building, but not barn dominium building. And the point is that any contractor has the ability. I know that you might be disappointed from money spent in the past, time lost in the past, or even the feeling of intimidation that marketing is this big mystery. But because the vast majority feels the same way and they're successful, $500,000, 1 million, 5 million. I've had so many people already be successful, but they're feeling that they're missing something. It's okay to say, okay, water under the bridge. Me and all of my competitors are usually in this same boat, fearing a topic that other people, that the accountants, lawyers, doctors, they don't wake up to become marketing people. The only difference between them and the average construction company is they had to go to school to get a license for their trade. Most tradesmen went right into the trade and then learned the business. And so when I meet doctors, accountants, and I'm always curious, especially the ones that have what I like to say is kick-ass marketing, and I'll say to them, how did you do it? They're like, I just know I'm supposed to do it, so I don't fight it. And that embracing the topic to differentiate is the thing that you should realize, that you're not going to try to compete with me because you would lose. But you're not caring about me at My Online Toolbox. You're caring about the other 5, 10, 20 other guys around you. And don't assume that they wake up to really care about the marketing. But if you left your business and just left it and said, you know what, I'm going to join another company, whatever that company may be, and they're an established 5, 10, $20 million business, many times the reason why they're that successful is they've embraced marketing not as a passive, oh darn, I got to do it, but they're doing it because they realize how much it changes their company 1 to 5 years out, and it just becomes like a snowball that just keeps on growing and growing. And they're embracing it, saying, wow, if I tell anybody here, I didn't know Jeremy, I didn't, but I saw the vision of where he is. So he's reaping the success today of whatever he would say to anybody about what he's doing in the first 6 months of the year or the ending 6 months of the year is pretty much nothing to do with anything I do with him in the beginning of the year. It's the rewards we're getting from last year and the year before. So if you start to take an approach of, when you wake up in the morning and think of a lead gen service saying, yes, I can get you leads next week, next month, you already know you're wrong, because you're focusing on leads. You're not focusing in on brand marketing. If you take a step back and say, where do I want to be in 6 months and 1 year and 2 years, and build your path towards where you're going long term. It might take longer to get that first lead. That I don't want to ever tell anybody that it happens overnight. But when the first lead comes in and then it turns into a second and the fifth, and they start to seem the same, all of a sudden you realize that you've gotten the focus and the continuity on your side. And more than likely, you have very few competitors that are thinking the same way. I'm not saying you don't have a lot of good competitors. I'm going to assume that they're all around you. Yeah. But if they don't embrace the marketing because they've never been trained to embrace the marketing, that's your foot in the door. So even like me, my success ratio, and I'll say this publicly, this I don't care about, but when people ask me, they'll say, hey, Brian, you're now turning 60. What do you worry about business-wise? And I tell people, my worry is so simple. I will begin to worry 5 years after Angie's List declares bankruptcy. Oh, but they're still in business. Wonderful. That's why you see I have no gray hair at 58. I have no problems, because my market always comes after they've wasted time and after they've wasted money. And since Angie's List is doing a hell of a great job, and bringing in people that are focused in on the short-term goals, I personally treat Angie's List specifically as nothing other than a rotary phone that still exists in a market that everybody has a smartphone. But for some reason, people are holding on to the and it's just not there. Angie's List is successful because the vast majority of the market doesn't think long-term. So until that disappears, I just sit back with my cigar knowing, okay, there's now this month, another 1,000 people going to try the short-term goal. Then another 500 will be out of business in about 6 months. Another 300 will have been scratching their head at the end of the year. And sometime in 2025, 5 to 10 people are going to wake up and say there has to be a better way. But they stayed in business. So I'm happy about that. But what I don't like, honestly, is that I got to wait till 2025 for the 5 to 10 people who struggled but made it through sheer determination. But now they're waking up to do well. So since I see Angie's List doing better and better with that regurgitation of new people starting a company, incorrectly, I just sit back and wait for the fish that go upstream and the bear just sits there and knows out of the million coming, only 10 make it. I'm that bear just sitting there. And until the entire stream has been cut off, what is it? The salmon, right? They swim up, swing. That's the way I feel. So I want contractors to realize that that's the same opportunity for them. And maybe they're not going to know me. Maybe they're not going to work with me. Fine. But when they go to work with anybody, don't just go to a web person. Don't just go to a Facebook person. Don't just go to an email person. Make sure they're taking a moment to understand what your real brand is. Because if they start to go too fast to implement an idea to make you feel good, it's going to be nothing but a short-term victory. It's going to have a feel good, and then it fizzles away. And then you start to worry about, why am I repeating it yet? Now, let me try Instagram this month. Next month, I'll go to Google Ads, and then I'll jump over here. And there's no need to do that. And that to me is my sincere wish for contractors. And I don't care what you do. You could be a painter. You could be a roofer. You could, of course, be a custom home builder in the higher ticket markets. And even if you are, and you're at a barn dominium and a custom home builder mindset, you want to make sure that when I say custom home builder, using that quick analogy, first, do I find you? Number one. Number two, do I see you as a Kia or do I see you as a BMW? But I said home builder. And if you didn't take a step back to realize that this is not me speaking, this is a consumer just randomly searching, and all of a sudden you pop up. Are you a Kia? And I'm not just talking in a disparaging way towards Kia. I'm just referring to, depending on the type of builder you are, do
Yeah.
you want people to see you as a BMW or a Kia? And I could bet you could bet no salesperson at BMW wants you walking in the door to say, hey, I was just down the block looking at that new Kia. Can you tell me about your BMW? You already know he's dying to get you out. He's probably not going to even give you a free coffee because he just wants you out the door.
And the exact same thing.
Yeah.
If you're there to sell a Kia, you don't want a BMW customer coming in. You know you're wasting your time. You know, whatever,
Right.
wherever you are, get clear on what you do best, how you can present that best, and then find a strategic way to do it. You know, that's a recurring theme.
Yes.
And marketing projects well, it isn't an easy thing. Just like building a project well, managing a project well, it's not an easy thing. It's something that we can do very professionally and we can get better at doing it every day. But the same person that's out there saying, I'm going to work harder every day, learning how to manage projects more successfully, how to communicate better, how to keep better budgeting, how to estimate better, how to keep my schedule going more fluid. That same person is probably not focused, or shouldn't be focused rather, with their current talents in how can I market this project the best as well. Um,
Mhm.
I had a really good builder in our area I was talking to last night, and he hasn't been in the market building as long, right? But he's still a very quality person, very quality builder. And they made the comment that, well, we got to get better at Facebook posts because every time we post, the phone rings. And I asked how many of those phone calls are real clients that you would want to work with or you could actually serve. Like, well, we do get a lot of random phone calls, right? It's like, well, that's a random marketing, so
Right.
we've got to be a little more specific on who we're asking to call us, and then that specific person will give us a call, right? And talk a little bit on how hard it actually is to document a project well.
Well, it's hard initially, but it's easy ongoing. And let me give a great simple analogy where somebody has, let's keep it as a barn dominium builder so it targets the majority of the people who may be listening. You're doing a barn dominium build, and it's going to go through everything from a vacant land, and we're going to design something that's going to go on that property, and it's going to be built. And then, of course, there's going to be a finished project with beautiful furnishing, and you got the husband and wife who are just perfect people, and you could even visualize getting a customer review, a video. What I would do as a starting point is the first thing is to recognize this is going to be a 6 month to 1 year project, give or take. Don't beat me up, Jeremy, on the exact dates. I don't know, but I'm just going to say 6 months to a year from the day somebody's patting you on the back and the deposit, and then coming up with the permits if you're in permit mode, all that stuff. So I would immediately take a picture of the vacant land and just go to Facebook and Instagram. And I'm going to keep it very simple. There are things I have to skip just for the sake of time, but I would make a Facebook and Instagram post about, if I was you, excited about a barn dominium project that's going to be here, a barn dominium build in Huntsville coming soon. We'll share more soon. Stop right there. It's like a teaser of the next Avatar coming out in 2025, right? And the movie's not coming out till next Christmas, but they already have teasers out. Why? Just enough to whet your appetite, move on with your life.
Yeah.
That's it. And yes, there's strategic ways to make that post, but make believe you have no idea what that means. So you just put a simple post on Facebook and Instagram with a simple little description, and that's it. Now, a couple of months go by, and or a month or two, and you have beautiful designs. Everybody's in agreement. What I would do is go back to my Facebook and Instagram, keep it very simple, and I would make simple posts along making headway. The designs are done for that barn, for that vacant lot, vacant land. Here it is. Can't wait to come back, show you some more soon. Again, short and sweet, peace of mind, move on with your life.
Yeah.
Somewhere midstream, there might be this beautiful framing or whatever it may be that are the real milestone pictures that somebody could get to the point. I would take just 1, 2, or 3 major pictures and say, halfway done with the barn dominium build. Can't wait to show the finished pictures. Now comes the tricky part. That was really easy. And then comes the big tricky part, where the first thing is you get the finished pictures. And mind you, the customer, I did say in the beginning that they were more than happy to give a video review. So now the finished pictures are there. Somebody comes in with their camera, click happy, and takes their 30 pictures. Most of the time, they run over to Facebook and Instagram and just quickly say, check it out. Boom, hit the enter key right there. Someone like me as a marketer wants to stick his hand through the phone and choke my client, because that was the first premature mistake we made, because it took you a freaking year to build the damn thing, and it took you 1 minute to ruin my day.
Full disclosure, I've done that more than once.
Yes, you have, but you get excited and you have your reasons why, but even so, you did it, but we know that it's not the right thing to do. So then what we do is we take a breather and we now put it into a folder. In my case, I use Dropbox, where we start to look at the pictures, and each step of the way, we slowly start to rename those images to understand what we're looking at. We don't want to just put 30 images there. We want to put Huntsville, Texas, barn dominium builder shows framing, shows this, shows the finished living room, shows the kitchen, blah, blah, blah. And that's the quick summary. We now have it there, but we don't want to do a thing yet, because we're aware that a video is coming. But oh my God, the video guy's on vacation. He doesn't come back for 2 weeks. I tell everybody, go build something. Just go continue on your day. Don't use that content, because until it's perfect, we want to just wait. So eventually the video does come. Another common thing is the video comes and everybody's salivating for that customer review. So again, they do the same thing. They post it on Facebook wrong. They post it on Instagram wrong. And God forbid they post it on YouTube wrong. Again, my hand's coming through the phone, because they usually title the videos incorrectly. So I say, guys, now that we know you have a video, beautiful. Now that you have the images, beautiful. Let's start renaming these things. So when we decide to put them online, regardless of where the hell they go, it's all a consistent message across the board. But now comes a trick. We have to include a programmer, which may or may not be the person who's doing the Facebook and the Instagram post, which may or may not be the person who's doing the YouTube post. Sometimes it's one person. Right. Sometimes it's the owner will do the Facebook and Instagram and even the YouTube if you tell them what to do. So the biggest thing is the coordination of this beautiful content. So when we decide to put it on YouTube, we know the titling of the YouTube is identical to the titling of what's going to go on the website. Eventually, the video is supporting the images and the story that's on the website. We put it all together. And then after it's sitting live, we go to our social media like Facebook and Instagram, and we do not 30 pictures in the video. We go 2 to 3, maybe 4 pictures, possibly the cover picture of the video. And we say, so excited to finish this barn dominium build in Texas. Click here to learn more. Now we got them to go to your website. We've now enhanced the power of your website ranking. And now in June of next year, when someone types in barn dominium builder Huntsville, Texas, why the heck do you appear on page 1 or 2? It's because we've covered a plethora of options between images, website reading, videos, and social media, all in a very uniform method. It sounded great. I said it in 5 minutes. It normally takes 30 minutes to an hour to master, and it usually takes a couple of repetitive times to understand it. But once you do, you become a marketing machine. Because, most of the competitors don't want to breathe. They don't. I mean, the construction competitors, they're like, I've been sitting waiting on this stuff for 2 whole weeks, a whole month. I'm like, just breathe. We're not talking about you bragging to get your family and friends and neighbors to like it. I'm talking about the person next year who's not thinking about this topic, that why will it come up? And once somebody's psychology is in that mode, they get to sit back like you and even me. I've been sitting back smoking a cigar now for 20 years. My leads just keep coming and coming. And it's not because I'm that smart of a guy, but I am extremely consistent, period. I just keep that strength. And as the technologies change, the Instagram comes and goes, Twitter becomes X, this becomes that, but the message just stays and flows in a uniform way. And so when somebody looks to find me, I already know the right people find me most of the time. I still get tire kickers, but those tire kickers, they show up to my front door with a red flag. I know within minutes that my conversation is going to be less because I've isolated that I am the Ferrari of this industry. So I'm aware of who's walking in my door and who's a nice person, but I just can't communicate with them because they're not ready to market correctly. They're just looking for leads.
Man, that's so good from the person that has gone through the different iterations of this, from the person that's heard the 30 minutes, from the person that just listened to the 5 minutes. I'm going to go rewind and listen to that because you put so much in that. And well, man, we're going to wrap this up here in a minute before I have to start charging for the information you're giving out. So
Okay.
I don't know how
I'm
to
not
put
upset. It's
a link
okay.
on the front of this podcast. So, man, I usually end with a question, and I'm going to hold that question, but one more before we get to there.
Mhm.
2024, new things that are coming out, tactics, tips, tricks. What's something that you kind of see that's new in 2024 that you're focused on?
Okay. Well, this one's an easy one. So let me give the easy one. If somebody made it this far listening, let me give the one that it's impossible not to leverage. And it's simple. When you get reviews, Google reviews are so powerful for validation that not only that people get to appreciate what other people have to say, but they help you so much with your rankings. And what we've always done up until 2024 was say, get the reviews, number one. Very critical. Number two, reply to the reviews. And when you reply to the reviews, Jeremy, you're guilty of this a few times, that when you're in a rush, you'll say thank you. But
Mm.
say somebody says to, hello, thank you. Here's a good one to his company. You did a great job. We're so happy with you. We love you, blah, blah, blah. But when you read it, you notice that it's a customer who left you praise, but never specifically said what you did and where you're doing it.
Mm.
So when you reply to them, you say, thank you, Mrs. Jones. We're so happy for the custom barn dominium we built for you in Huntsville. Looking forward to seeing you in the near future. And you just add a little bit of personalization. And if the people did not say the appropriate keywords on the review, you then respond with a thank you and throw in the high level keywords of what you do and where you do it. And then the other tip is, when people leave you a review, the newest thing Google started doing that there is leveraging when people, in addition to giving you the hopefully 4 or 5-star review and whatever terminology they use in the review, to also include one or more images of the project. And the reason is that when people take a picture on their smartphone, it's geolocated.
Mm.
And because that person's now tagged on in the review, they have it associated to your company, but now we have not just text associated to your company, but we have additional imagery specific to a location. It's an added advantage if you could ask your client just to take a few random pictures. And then what will happen is when you start to look at reviews of other companies, you'll notice that they sort different ways. Most relevant, newest, oldest, best, worst, something like that. But the most relevant is taking in a combination of the words being used and our images are included. So if you want to force a really nice project to be at the top of the most relevant, get as many images you can from the customer when they're leaving with you with a review. And that's a perfect, easy tip that everybody doesn't need to master technology to get a client to leave you a review for.
Wow, man, thank you so much.
Mhm.
Yeah. Uh, Man, thank you for your time. I know you're a super busy guy. Thank you for your knowledge. Thank you for what you've been able to help me with my business. I hope this helps a ton of other people with theirs. Um, Real quick, as far as helping people. So
Mhm.
if I'm ready to build my new home, I'm just starting, I've got my phone in my hand, boom. What should my next step be? If I could talk to the marketer that's trying to find me, how could I be more easy to find?
Well, that answer goes back to we don't know. And keep in mind, because we don't know, when I'm holding a phone right now, nobody knows what I'm going to do next as far as what do I feel is powerful to me. Am I going to be on Facebook? Not me personally, but some people do that. Am I on Instagram just looking at pictures and I'm curious? Am I on Google search? Am I a video person that I'm on YouTube and I'm addicted to how I learn on YouTube? So it's better to look at it the opposite way, where since we don't really know, let's choose the best of breed answers to cover the variables to the best of our ability without losing sleep. And I do lose sleep, unfortunately, with my own company too, because I'm personally aware of where I'm stronger than the other areas. And I'm always pushing myself because this is what I'm addicted to. So I tell people, that they're going to possibly go to search just because they're curious. Google as one, but I don't want to, again, exclude Bing and Yahoo or anything else, but let's just say Google at the moment. Since there's a chance, at least 50 to 60% of the time, someone's going to Google out of curiosity, why not position yourself to be part of that 50 to 60%? Period. The other 40%, which is coming from social media, whether it's somebody on Instagram, somebody on YouTube, somebody on Facebook, why would you not be there covering as much of the variables possible in a classy way, in a consistent way, and then you're going to be found. I would challenge people, even though you mentioned TikTok for this video, I would tell especially the home builder marketplace, the reason why I am against TikTok. Well, I have many reasons, but the main reason is, since the average listener or user of TikTok, I think 84 or 87% is 34 and below. And the average builder is searching for anybody who, at least I believe, has money that somehow enters the world there. That is, since 15% of the market is above, and my instinct is they're the ones that are on TikTok don't have much money anyway because they're too busy ticking and talking all damn day. So I would say go to TikTok to generate activity, but don't go there to attract a quality lead. I'm sure one person's ready to now send me an email to say they hate me, but putting that aside, that's the fact. So stay focused on trying your best not to have a silver bullet answer, and instead do a broad stroke on a consistent basis. And again, what's consistent? When you do a Facebook post, I'm not saying daily and I'm not saying weekly, but if you could do it monthly and quarterly, just to share with the world what you're doing on a constant basis, when that next lead comes in and they land on your Facebook page and they go to scroll down a couple of times, the last thing you want to do is embarrass the world that your last post was in 2019. Please. That's what I mean. So if you had in there one little spot of a design, another spot was a frame, another spot was a finished image, and it happened to be spread over a 6-month or 1 year period, you still look like you're in business to the consumer. But if they see it was 4 years ago, they're questioning what you're doing. It's impossible that you went a year and didn't have anything to say. So that's a quick answer. And what I'd like to do to stimulate, Jeremy, is it okay that it's a mild sales pitch, just a little? I want to give people free and a very inexpensive option to understand this stuff better. If you go to the My Online Toolbox Facebook page, every week, we just went over 300 weekly quick tips for free. We take whatever's going on in the world, and between 3 and 7 and 8 minutes when I get off track, to give people just a quick idea of something going on that they could be aware of in the back of their head based on what's going on in the industry and marketing. So if you go to the Facebook page, of course, I'd love you to like the page and like a few of the posts, just that it moves up in your Facebook feed, that you're just aware that you have this ongoing weekly stimulus to be aware of and cognizant of marketing in general. Number one. Number two, based on the success of managing your best projects, then go to the My Online Toolbox Instagram page and follow us there, because on a weekly basis, we take another contractor's featured project and package it to show the best of another contractor marketing themselves, and whether it's a new home build, a new roof, painting jobs, remodeling jobs, a lot of other unique ones too. That I just did a pond this weekend, very, very cool sunken pond, just beautiful koi pond. But
Wow.
the guy did everything between the landing page, the video, the social posting, and the philosophy. It was just a different construction project, but the implementation at the marketing was consistent. So if you follow us on Instagram, that ultimate of your featured project ongoing marketing allows you just to be stimulated to do it the right way. And then, as far as having an intelligent conversation with anybody, whether it was My Online Toolbox or a programmer or another social person, I would just tell you that the least expensive topic that My Online Toolbox has, we've won awards for this. We have a basic education class. It's $379. It's been the same price now for God knows how long. And all we do is keep enhancing the content and updating the content. But you go for about 8 to 9 hours. The sharpshooters do it in 6. The people who are very slow do it in 10. That's what we hear. That you just go through it to see the world the way I've been expressing it, but now with the details. So you may not become a rocket scientist, but you're going to understand these topics so well that when you go to converse with somebody else, you spent literally a day of your time to understand something so critical that's going to differentiate yourself with anybody you work with. Doesn't matter whether it's me as an ideal consulting client or even a competitor of mine or a programmer, and you don't want to work with a consultant, but you're not going to feel lost with this
Yeah.
topic in for 300. It's not even the 379. I never have people talking about the money. They always talk, they'll say, I need 6 to 10 hours. I'm like, hey, what are you talking about? I've been doing this 32 years and I'm packaging this up in a concise way, and more importantly, a concise way using construction examples that are real.
Yeah.
So it's not me just taking a topic and saying, I'm going to use a buzzword, title tags. I'm not going to just say title tags like everyone else does. I'm going to say title tags, comma, as it relates to construction. So you're learning relative to the industry, not learning relative to the tool. And I've never had a refund request. I've never had anything other than, hey, I want to share this with someone else, which I usually don't. I force them to sign up to, but it's literally a $379 that the investment financially is not even a topic. It's the 6 to 10 hours of just sitting down and saying, I'm ready to understand marketing in my industry and change your life forever.
Yeah,
You,
you have to be willing to invest the time, you have to be willing to invest the money. No, I thank you very much for sharing that. My next question was, hey, how are we going to get a hold of you? So that was obviously you
uh,
have it set up, right? Brian is speaking at your local or not local, your national conventions. He has consultants bring him in to explain things to their own groups, their own workshops. You're national renowned at this point. So
Hey, if anyone's going to be at the Texas, I don't know if any builder is going to be at the International Builder Show, but I have a presentation on Wednesday at that show. And anybody who happens to be picking this up, if you go to Texas and you'd like to see that there's a human behind here who doesn't mind shaking your hand, I'd love to get a chance to meet you. And as soon as you say, well, where do I go? What do I do? Go to the My Online Toolbox website or Google my name and figure it out from there. Otherwise, I don't want to meet you anyway.
yeah, that's
Come
it.
on, it's just too easy to
Yeah.
figure out how to contact me. If you're going to be in Texas, reach out to me at the website. I'd be really happy to shake your hand, especially if you made it this far in a podcast and we're able to achieve some value from it. I love shaking hands for just that reason alone.
Yeah. Well, man, thank you so much for your time. Thank you from the audience. Thank you from me personally. Brian Javelin, My Online Toolbox. Of course, our podcast. If we're adding any value to you, let us know. Like, share, etc. So until then, let's begin to build.